What is up, awesome people? Welcome to my show. This is the Tim Reynolds Show. How y'all doing today? Hope everybody had a happy Easter. And welcome to the show. We're going to go ahead and bring you guys up to date on the big race that happened yesterday at Richmond Raceway. And we'll give you guys some updates on what to look forward to on the show coming up this week. And hope you guys like the show. So first off, welcome. Hope everyone had a great Easter. Happy Easter to everybody out there. And we're going to go over Raceman Richway this week. The NASCAR Cup Series was in Richmond in Virginia. It was a really good race for the most part. Got to watch it. It was our first night race for the most part on the season. It was also a first time that our NASCAR drivers went into overtime at the very end of this race. So just a little teaser to get you guys started. To get us started here, we're going to have a little bit of fun facts about the Raceman Raceway. Raceman Raceway was built in October 12th, 1946. The architect was Mark Lindsay. It is a D-shaped oval, which is one of the few that you'll see on the race circuit, but it's very, very unique. NASCAR competition's been going there for a long time, and they have a capacity of 51,000 people, which is pretty amazing for a racetrack. And I tell you what, guys, this race last night was amazing. We had the number 5 car, Carl Larson starting on the pole, and it's a 400 lap 300-mile race, and it was pretty good to see all in all. Now, to start the race out, the racetrack was actually kind of damp. It rained a little bit during the day, and believe it or not, this was the first time, at least me as an NASCAR fan, was seeing the drivers actually put treaded tires on the cars. Now, this is interesting because last year at Wilkesboro for the North Wilkesboro Raceway or Speedway, whichever one they call it, it was for the All-Star race last year, was the first time that we ever used these treaded tires at all. The reason they came out for it was because we're doing a lot of road racing, and they thought if we could get a windshield wiper on the car, and some of these next-gen cars might be able to handle the wet weather a lot better than the old stock cars could. So believe it or not, to start this race out, we had a little bit of a rain delay to start it out, and then they put the treaded tires on to start the race. So for the first 30 laps, they were on treaded tires on this racetrack to try to help dry it out. And once the track got dry enough where the safety people at NASCAR felt they could actually put the slicks back on, that's when they actually called a competition caution after lap 30 and allowed teams to come into, now I haven't seen this before, but called non-competitive pit stops. Now, if you're not familiar, anytime the driver has to pit, it's to refuel and get tires on their car and make adjustments for whatever their car might be doing good or doing bad. And in this particular instance, you're not timed. When you come into a pit stop, it's whoever can get out the fastest. You can actually gain positions on pit road if your pit crew is fast enough, which comes into play this particular race day, believe it or not. So they allowed to come in, weren't timed, uncompetitive pit stops, so everyone was able to come in, put new tires on, put gas in, make adjustments, and then be able to go out of the pits and line up back where they came into the pits for this particular pit stop to start the race. So this was pretty interesting to me because already two things I've never seen in a NASCAR race before myself. I've never seen them have the treaded tires to start the race, especially for that many laps, which is kind of cool to see that those treaded tires held up. A lot of drivers had some pretty good feedback on the broadcast from what I could see. So it's nice to see that NASCAR is developing that, and we might be able to see more races actually get in on time now instead of being delayed because of the weather so much. It was also really cool to see these pit crews have to really dial in their pit strategy, make sure they're really in there cranking them wrenches, getting those adjustments the right way, because that's what really was going to end up paying off at the end of this race to see who was going to win it. Now, it was dominated by a couple of cars. The number 5, Carl Larson, led a lot of laps, but then also the number 19 car of Martin Truex Jr. really dominated the whole race for the most part. He led 228 laps for almost the whole race, pretty much over half of it. So it was very, very good to see all the teams kind of mix it up on the pit stops, because a lot of bad pit stops happened in this race as well. Cost some guys a lot of positions and a lot of points as we head in to the next week of the NASCAR season. Now, at the end of it, we did have a little bit of controversy. Now, what ended up happening is Martin Truex Jr. in the number 19 was leading most of this race, and at the very, very end, 2 laps to go, literally less than 2 laps to go, there's a caution that's brought up where the number 23 car, Bubba Wallace, knocks out or spins out the number 5 car, pretty much, Kyle Larson. Now, this gets even interesting about this because as Larson spins out, Kyle Larson spins out, he actually was able to save the car, so the car didn't really get wrecked or anything. It just spun out, got off the track. He was able to save it, keep it going back onto the racetrack. So then we get to our pit stops now. So because the caution was called, and there wasn't 1 lap to go, or the white flag hadn't waved, now Martin Truex Jr. has to come into our first ever overtime for NASCAR this season. Now, if you're not familiar with NASCAR overtime, what that is it is a 3-lap race pretty much to the end of the race. Now, when the flag goes to green, it goes 2 laps to go. You're on the 3rd lap, and you're on your 2nd lap. And then when the white flag will come out, any flag that comes after the white flag, whoever's in the lead is the one who wins. So in this particular case, we had our first overtime race this week, and it was a doozy because as we went into the pits, now remember, number 19 is leading the race. As we go into the pits, the guy in 3rd position, number 11, Denny Hamlin, was able to get a pit stop so much faster than everybody else. He came out with the lead with only a few laps to go in the NASCAR overtime, which is huge. So you can imagine how frustrated the 19 team must have been because they didn't get out quick enough to be able to keep their spot in the lead. So as we get a restart going at the very end of this race, it's very interesting what happens because it's almost as if, maybe he got a little head start, maybe he didn't. The tires kept rolling for the number 11, and he got off the line perfectly on the restart. And when this happened, the number 19 really was bobbed. He was really frustrated, just trying to get back to his line, trying to get back to the 11 so he could contend for the lead to try to win the race. He already led 228 laps, so you imagine he's really trying hard to get up to this front, and Denny Hamlin is just driving his car, doing what he needs to do. And at the end of the race, Denny Hamlin in the number 11 car ends up pulling out the victory at his hometown track there in Richmond, Virginia. The boy is from Virginia. If any of you guys know NASCAR, you know Denny Hamlin. This guy is one of the best racers on the circuit. He is one of the best racers in NASCAR, period, and he has been for a very, very long time. So he gets his 2nd win of the season for the number 11 team, which is really nice to see. But again, at the end of the race, a little bit of controversy with the number 19 car getting so frustrated, not being able to get that lead back and also be able to get the win on the racetrack. He actually ended up finishing in 4th position because on the very last lap, frustration got to him. You could see him bumping with the number 5 car of Kyle Larson a little bit too much, and at the very, very end of the race, it actually ended up costing him 1 spot. And Kyle Larson ended up finishing in the 3rd position with Joey Logano in the number 22 car finishing number 2 in the 2nd position. But what's interesting about this is, like I mentioned earlier on the video, number 5 got spun out. That brought out the caution with 2 laps to go in the race that pretty much cost Martin Truex Jr. the win because he was more than likely going to win the race. And when he spun out, you're thinking, oh man, he's probably going to get maybe a top 30 finish here if he's lucky, top 20 if he's really, really good. Well, the pit stop for the number 5 crew was so good because he was able to save the car, get right back in line, only lost, I think, about 2 or 3 positions, really, got into his pits, had such a good pit stop, just like the Denny Hamlin, just like the number 11 team, and he was able to get out and finish in the top 5 after bringing out the last caution, spinning out, being bumped in behind from number 23, and spinning out and still being able to save that car, and then pit crews being able to dial it in and get that car back out on the racetrack for a top 5 finish. That's crazy, man. So in this particular race, man, we had a lot of things that you just don't normally see in NASCAR, and that's why it's always exciting, man. And I can't wait to bring you guys some more awesome reviews on this thing. And I'll get on my next video, we'll go over the upcoming race this upcoming weekend and tell you guys where we're headed and what's that all about. So thank you guys for joining the show. Upcoming on my episodes you'll see posted sometime this week. You'll probably see some on the UFL. We'll go over, they had a bunch of debuts this past weekend, so we'll go over those games and scores and see what happened there, because, hey, we're all about football here, baby. Even though it's a new league we don't know much about, we're going to learn. We're going to learn together, man. And I just want to say thank you to everybody for all the support again. This channel is my dream, and you guys are helping me fulfill my dream, and I really appreciate that. And again, big shout out to all the family and friends out there for supporting, but also happy Easter to everybody. Keep loved ones close to you. Always remember to appreciate the little things and those people that mean the most to you. And always carry love in your heart and happiness in your life, and treat yourself good, all right? Everybody have a nice day. Peace.